Hey everyone, and welcome to our first video on helping young entrepreneurs better define what marketing is. So simply put, what is marketing? The whole premise of marketing is to help you as a business or as someone who's looking to maybe sell goods and services is the ability to manage profitable customer relationships. At the end of the day, a business needs to look at its consumers just like how a consumer might look at its friends or family. You want to build those type of relationships where you hear key words and key values like dependable, trustworthy, and loyal. And as a business, when you can develop those types of relationships, you'll keep those customers satisfied, but not just in the short term. You'll have them coming back to your store location over and over again for a long period of time. So one of the things I like to kind of do is sometimes look at some case studies just to kind of help you better understand how marketing works and how some companies have come up with some successful marketing strategies to ensure that they can get their brands out there to consumers and satisfy those unmet wants and needs of consumers. In Canada, we have this clothing brand called Joe's Fresh. It's kind of an urban influence clothing style, but the big strategy that the Joe Fresh brand wanted to have was to sell their clothing in a retail setting where Canadians shop every week. And where do people shop every week? The grocery store. And one of the reasons why Joe Fresh kind of worked along with Loblaws, which is the company that owns the Great Canadian Superstore, is because they recognized that they could get their clothing brand into over 1,000 stores across the country, which would give them kind of like immediate kind of reputable, trustworthy, kind of recognized brand name. And what the Loblaws did is they hired a fashion designer, Joe Mimram, who some of you have seen on shows like Dragon's Den. He was also kind of one of the leading fashion creators and designers with the Club Monaco brand that many of us grew up with back in the 1990s and early 2000s. So what Loblaws did is they decided to hire Joe Mimram to create this affordable brand, clothing brand, and sell it in Canadian grocery stores with a major focus on kids clothing brands. And the reason why they did this, and I'm sure probably a lot of you can think why would you kind of want to mix grocery shopping and kids clothing brands to go hand in hand, it's because of people like you and me. If you're a parent, you recognize and you love the fact when you can get time off on the weekends. We all know that we're all running around on weekends taking kids to soccer practices or swimming lessons or piano lessons or whatever they're doing on the weekend, and then you still got to kind of find in time to go to the grocery store and buy food for the week, and then you're still having to run around even on top of that to go to the mall and maybe buy your kids some clothes. So kind of what Loblaws did with Joe Mimram and this Joe Fresh brand is they decided to bring the actual clothing brand into the actual grocery store, and this would allow a huge amount of time convenience for Canadian parents when they do their shopping, because you could then go to the grocery store, get your shopping done, and then just walk 2-3 minutes over to a section in the store where they have a huge selection of clothing items meant for kind of the kids under the age of 16. And by doing this, parents love this by the fact that they were able to probably save an hour or two each weekend having to go to the mall and buy clothes, where they could just kind of have this one-stop shopping to buy, get all their groceries, get all their clothing. But the clothing was done in such a way that it's quite fashionable, it's relatively well priced. And again, when you have kids that are probably under the age of 15 or 16, they may not be as brand conscious. So kids aren't going to be sitting there worrying about the brand name, and parents are looking at the price savings that they're getting and the time savings that they're getting from not having to go to an actual retail outlet or some type of shopping mall, and parents love the idea. So because of this successful strategy, it actually Joe Fresh became the #1 clothing brand in Canada. And it's just like we said, the whole premise is because it was highly accessible for parents. Parents love it because it is easy to find. It's at the grocery store where you're already at, and you can go find some fun, fashionable styles for your kids. The other big thing that Joe Fresh really focused on is that they were constantly changing their styles to meet the needs of their customers. And really how they did this is that they kind of have a goal. And I remember listening to Joe talk about it in an interview. He says their kind of goal for the Joe Fresh brand is to keep the product fresh. So they would try to change their products every 4 weeks. Now that makes sense, because think, we go to the grocery store at least once a week, and you're going in there over a period of 2 or 3 months and you're consistently just seeing the same old clothing items, you're probably kind of get bored of it, you're getting tired of it, you don't want to walk around there because you already kind of know what's there. But by changing the product every 4 weeks, it kind of keeps the brand, like its name says, is it's fresh. You can go in there and see different types of styles of clothing, different types of shorts, different types of shirts, different types of jackets, different types of shoes, so that it would actually draw you over there while you were grocery shopping just to see what they had in there was new. And again, that whole element of time utility or convenience for parents absolutely fell in love with. And we've seen this actually happen with other big, large retailers. Like 5-10 years ago, I remember kind of going into Walmart and it was just pretty much your clothing items, your shoe items, your consumer electronics items. And I'd say about 5-10 years ago, they started to bring in the groceries into Walmart. They were, I think, starting to kind of recognize that successful element of trying to have that one-stop shopping location for the average adult or parent so that they could get all their clothing and shopping needs or grocery needs all in one location. So what does this example show us? Again, it shows that a company can improve their chances of being successful when they focus on two things: strongly focusing on customer needs. And in this case, like we're talking about, it was improving that time for weekend shopping for parents, so they're not having to spend 3 or 4 hours shopping. Maybe they're only having to spend 1 or 2 hours shopping on the weekend. And when you do that, it focuses on understanding and satisfying the customer needs, and because of that, they are happy and they will continually come back to that brand. And then again, the big thing from a business perspective is that it motivates everyone in the organization to help build those long-lasting customer relationships. Because again, that is the whole premise. You will probably hear me speak about that over and over. The whole goal of marketing is not only to attract new customers by promising some type of superior value, and that doesn't just mean product value. And in Joe Fresh's case, it was that superior value of saving parents time. And then once you've drawn those customers in, the big challenge for a lot of businesses is how do you keep and grow those current customers by continually delivering satisfaction. So for example, you can think of a multinational, big multi-billion-dollar company like McDonald's. How do they continually make people come back? It's because when same way, like the whole premise of why we love going to Walmart is we look to save money on simple items that we maybe view to help our daily lives. We're not going to Walmart looking to expect to buy high-end luxury products. We're looking to go to Walmart to get value-based pricing, and that's how they've set up their whole setup. When you look at social media companies, their whole premise is just about finding ways, whether it be Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or whatever one you're using, it's just to help as a way to help communicate and connect and share with your friends any information you want to talk about, maybe an experience that you had, some thoughts that you had on a current issue. It allows you to have a platform to communicate with those people that you may not see on a daily basis. So hopefully when you start to kind of put all these different case studies together and some of the things we've talked about, you recognize that marketing is not just about advertising. And I love showing this picture here of the iceberg because that's kind of how people a lot of times view marketing. When people think of marketing, they think of the stuff that they can see, which is like the tip of the iceberg. You think of the advertising. People don't often associate all the other elements of strategic planning, which are below the ocean, that are still a part of marketing, that are crucial to help a company become successful. Again, it's not just the telling and the selling, but it's also the ability, again, how do you satisfy customer needs? So just think to yourself, how is marketing all around you? They say that the average consumer receives close to 10,000 different types of promotional or marketing messages on a given day. And you go, geez, well, 10,000 sounds like a lot. Well, let's go through and look at some examples. You might just see a logo on a shoe. That's an example of marketing and promotions. Obviously, you see TV commercials, radio commercials, internet commercials. You go on to websites to make purchases, to buy clothing, to buy shoes, to buy new headphones. One of the ones that a lot of people don't think about that's connected to marketing is the distribution element, making sure that a company can get the products from the manufacturer to the retailer to the consumer in an efficient manner so that when the consumers want the product, they have it in a timely fashion. Have to talk about pricing strategies, like you have to look at and work with in what you're doing. Like you got to look at costs of purchasing products. You got to look at what's the profit margins you're looking to make. You're thinking about the imaging of pricing. Like if you set a price point at too high, do customers look at it as value at that price point? Or are you maybe purposefully setting the price super high or at a higher price margin to help create an image of luxury or elegance? So again, this is hopefully the two things I really want you to take out of this presentation is what marketing simply put is creating value for customers and building strong and lasting relationships with those customers. And now, one of the first steps that you need to do is, again, spend the time to understand the consumer's needs, wants, and demands. Like we just saw with that Joe Fresh example, Loblaws spent the time to go out and find out that a lot of parents don't want to spend their entire weekend out grocery shopping and clothing shopping. Another example that I remember reading about in a case study is David Dillon, who is the Kroger Foods CEO. He is often and was often regularly seen walking the aisles of his local grocery stores. And what he would do is sit there and just listen to consumers. So why do you think he does this? It's obviously because he's trying to understand at the most rudimentary level, what are the customer's needs? And again, anytime you can understand those needs, again, it's going to get pounded into your head. People want products and services that add value to their lives and create some type of satisfaction. But one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of companies do is they tend just to focus on product development. And sometimes what companies need to actually do is maybe pay more attention to other specific products that they offer, or maybe go back and sometimes they get caught up so much in their own development, they don't sit there and look at what maybe consumers might give them as feedback. So they should really be not just focusing on product development, they should also be focusing on the benefits and experiences that are offered by those products. Because again, customers are going to tell other people, so they're going to create stories about your brand and tell their friends, their families, their relatives. They're also going to share their experiences. There's this old marketing adage that a happy customer might tell one or two people about a positive experience, but when a customer is really upset about an experience they had with a brand or a company, they will tell anybody. They will tell dozens and dozens of people about that to warn them about that. So one of the examples I kind of like to use is, think, people that are joggers, one of their biggest issues is when they go for a long distance run that their feet get sore in their shoes. So a company like Nike came along and said, okay, well, how can we maybe help this? But one of the problems that Nike had is they focus more on like a new look over the benefit and experience for the users. Like I'm sure a bunch of you remember when they came out with those Nike Shocks. I remember I kind of bought them, and Nike, I think, kind of got caught up in focusing on the look because it's a new and innovative look for kind of a cushioning system of a sole. But there wasn't a lot of maybe looking outside of themselves going like, how can we maybe improve this product? So like I said, the product looks cool, but does it solve the problem? Well, anybody that knows, if you go back and look at that shoe, it has a very pronounced kind of heel lift. You almost kind of feel like you're in like a high heel in some manner. And one of the things that any person who works in biomechanics or has a human kinetics background, they know that when you have a shoe that has a pronounced heel lift, it actually can cause a lot of damage and lead to pain in your knees or your back. So, and trust me, as a person who's had back pain, you want to make sure that the shoes that you're wearing, if you are out jogging, focus more on functionality of making sure that the foot and the knee and the back doesn't get sore versus focusing maybe on the design look of a shoe to give it a new and innovative look. So consumers gave feedback to Nike that that shoe really wasn't working, and Nike like was good. They're a top marketing company, and they took that information and they tried to improve this. So they did a bunch of different things. Like I'm sure you've seen a bunch of the Nike Air Max shoes and how they're kind of consistently changing the design elements of how that shoe looks, but also the functionality of how that air pocket works to offer more functional support for runners. They've come out with other technologies like the Joyride, where they put the little rubber inserts inside of the kind of air cushioning system. And I know I bought a pair of these shoes, and they're probably some of the most comfortable shoes because the Air Max provides the cushion, but the little rubber balls provide a little extra security in making sure that your foot stays somewhat planted. So it's a perfect example that allows the jogger then, once they go out jogging, because they took the feedback, that the jogger no longer has any pain. But if Nike had just stayed with the Nike Shock system, you may have seen a lot of joggers maybe move away from their athletic products. So again, that's just a kind of an example of where sometimes companies maybe get caught up in their own kind of brain and forget to kind of look outside and listen to customers. But in this case, Nike did a great job in recognizing what was going wrong, quickly made an adjustment to it, and they kind of come up with new technologies. All right, so that's the end of the video. Hopefully, again, you remember to click and subscribe to this channel, and we'll be coming out with usually weekly or bi-weekly little messages on marketing for you. Have a good rest of your day.